All right, Chris, let's start here. 24-3 to the Jets, Thursday night loss. Run down a couple of the numbers for you. Really, the thing that stood out for me more than anything, the two quarterbacks were hit a combined 15 times, sacked a combined 7 times. On the other side, Aaron Rodgers wins the Jets home opener. It was an emotional return for him, probably a little bit more emotional than maybe even we realized after being on the shelf all last year. New England drops to 1-2. The Jets go to 2-1. Day or two after the game, you texted me and you said you rewatched the game and it wasn't as bad as it first looked. Explain your thought process.
Yeah, I mean, we always used to be in the league, and after every single game, it's never as bad as you think it is. It's never as good as you think it is. And I think in real time, watching the game, you're just like, oh, man, this is just not good. And, I went back and rewatched it, and I think the game came down to fundamentals. We didn't tackle well. We didn't protect the quarterback. We didn't turn the ball over, but Aaron Rodgers played well. We didn't really defend. We didn't defend very well. And listen, it's tough when you're not getting to the quarterback and he's got all this time to kind of bounce around the pocket. I mean, guys are going to get open, man. It's tough to cover these guys for more than 3-4 seconds. Once those plays get extended, he's one of the best in the game to finding those guys and getting people open. We had some chances. We didn't put up points. And again, like you said, our quarterback was under pressure, and that is going to make it difficult to move the ball down the field and win football games. Listen, it was a short week, young team playing against Aaron Rodgers, who arguably played his best game in a very long time. And tip my cap, right? But 24-3, I stand by this. I don't think it was that bad of a football game. And I think if we do some different things and maybe we tackle a little bit better and we get some, maybe extend some drives and put a couple more points. I don't know if that game is really that bad. I think it could be a lot closer, but it is what it is.
We've used the phrase before, and I think it bears repeating here. It never felt manageable for them, particularly right out of the gate in the second half, in the micro where you talk about, making sure things are manageable when you start an offensive drive, you're in second and short and third and short. It never seemed manageable for them all night. They just seemed to be a step behind, whether it was Rodgers, whether it was, not being able to get any sort of offensive traction. The one thing that I did like was they at least made a conscious effort to push the ball down the field. Pop got 9 targets in that game. I think we both said that was going to be the case. So that's a step in the right direction. What else needs to happen right now to give this offense a boost?
I don't know. I don't think I got to make any wild statements here where we need to do anything that's just out of the ordinary, because listen, Jacoby missed some throws, and that's okay. That's going to happen. But I think that he's going to make those throws in these games. And I think he's going to make more of them than he's going to miss more of them. I think that I'd love to continue. Listen, I love the fact that we gave the ball to Pop. That kid needs to get the ball more, because you can tell that he is just more comfortable with the ball in his hands. He has a ton of confidence. I mean, if you're going to take a screen pass, flipped out to the outside and completely reverse field, you have some balls on you, because, what's coming behind you to the side. I mean, and he made a play that could have been negative, turned it into a positive. So I love that we did get him more involved. I think that's going to help our offense. I think that there's got to be just a little bit more to the offense. We're not going to be able to just line up. We don't have those guys. I think we got to continue the moving parts. And to be honest, listen, it's game 3. I think Van Pelt is still kind of figuring out this identity of what this offense really needs to be, who his personnel should be, what type of players does he have. And this is a big week, because now we've lost 2 in a row. We had the Thursday night game, so we have a little bit more time to kind of rest up and repair, which I think factored into that game. Young team, short week, not really, maybe didn't prepare as well as, they could have. But now you're playing, the defending runner-up champs who are 1-2 and probably looking to get a win on the board. And yeah, they're dealing with some stuff themselves. So I think that helps us. But like I said, I don't know if we're really going to see the true identity of this Patriots, at least from an offensive perspective, not for like maybe to the second quarter, but I think, and I know what everyone in Foxborough is saying right now, but I think that we're trending in the right direction, regardless of what everyone else thinks. Drake Maye should not be on the field yet.
You ever had a situation where, I don't want to say you feel sorry for a quarterback, but everyone in the locker room knows the quarterback's getting his ass kicked on the field, and the quarterback wants to say something about the offensive line, but kind of has to hold his tongue a little bit. I don't imagine that ever happened with Tom, but in some of the other places that you've been, the relationship between the quarterback and the offensive line, can it ever become, frayed as the result of poor pass protection?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, listen, there's a good quarterback, a captain of the team, typically has got to place a little bit of accountability on his guys that are trying to keep him off his back. And sure, there are going to be times, there are going to be games where, they have good scheme. They schemed us up. They're doing well, and we didn't block it. But I didn't necessarily see a ton of scheme on Thursday night's loss. I saw guys just getting beat.
Yeah.
And that, to me, that's a problem. Like that needs to be fixed. If it was scheme and we were getting schemed up and we got outcoached, okay, I could be okay with that. But I don't really think that was the case. And they got the outside, the edge guys got a little bit of a little exposed, and so did the inside. So listen, good defense. It's not like they had just a bunch of average Joes up there, rushing rushing our quarterback. But again, man, if I'm Jacoby, if I'm Drake, if I'm Gerard, I'm challenging my offensive line this week to say, listen, our quarterbacks got hit 15 times on Thursday night. It wasn't just touched, man. They got they got put on their back, right? Yeah. Like you saw Jacoby, shoulder pads cut, jersey hanging off, and it's not going to get any easier with all the teams that we play. So there's got to be we got some work to do up front. We knew that. But I think these guys got to do a little bit of a gut check here and going into week 4 and say, okay, we're not going to let that, take some pride, man. Let's not let this happen again. I don't care if you're a rookie, vet, first year player, if you're a practice squad guy that gets called up, you have a job to do. Keep your quarterback clean, man. Let's go.
Jacoby's never going to say the wrong thing. I mean, he's never going to be one of those guys, as much as we try and maybe bait him in a post-game press conference, he's never going to say the wrong thing. He's never going to throw the coaching staff under the bus. He's never going to throw the offensive line under the bus. But it's reached a point now where you wonder, and I asked Mayo about, what do you do moving forward with this offensive line? How can you scheme things up to minimize an offensive line that is still clearly struggling? My thought was you get the quarterback on the run. You obviously you get the ball out as quickly as possible. What are some things that you as a player, if you're on an offense with a problematic offensive line, just call it, what are some things that you could recognize? You could say, these are the things we need to do. We need to kind of overcome some offensive line struggles at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we need to, in the run game, we need to just hammer the double teams, and have our runs that we know that we're going to be able to block well against whatever scheme that we're going up against, and not really try to reinvent the wheel there. And I think that we have to, I think all year it just build off of that, whether that's an RPO type offense, and I know that Van Pelt definitely has that in the bag, the ball's got to be in and out of Jacoby's hands. I mean, I think we've learned already that unless we're maybe in, 21 personnel, we're not really dropping back and having a lot of time to throw the ball. So I think the ball's got to be in and out. And I think that, to be honest with you, I kind of like the idea of getting these young kids, maybe they can get open early, and just, we have to try. We can't just say, oh, we got, Polk against Sauce Gardner. Let's just look away. No, man, we have to challenge. We're going to have to challenge our receivers to get open early. And then we're going to have to challenge our offensive line to hold up for 2-3 seconds, get guys down, chop them at their feet, make sure that their hands aren't up so that we can get the ball out quick, whether that's quickly to the outside or over the middle. Yeah, rely on, get our tight ends going again. Like we did a really good job against Seattle. And, I think we need to go back to that game, see what we really did well and continue to build off of that. I just think the Jets game, I just don't think we had a good enough game plan going into that short week to be competitive. And I think that this week is going to be different. I don't see our defense missing that many tackles again. I don't see them playing this way. I think that they're going to learn from this as much as our offense is going to learn from it. And listen, I firmly believe we're going to be competitive in every single football game we play this year. I really do.
Two things real quick. First of all, Dietrich Wise, I talked to him in the locker room yesterday. We're recording this Tuesday morning, by the way. I talked to him in the locker room Monday, and one of the things that he stressed was that, look, as bad as it may have looked from the outside, it's week 3. Yeah. And you referenced this before, that this is a team that still is a young team that's still trying to find an identity, still kind of working through some stuff, new quarterback, new offensive line. My concern kind of building off that is I want to see this team be able to treat wins and losses kind of stay even keeled. Yep. And I know that is an acquired skill, that's something that you learn over the course of time. You don't get too high, too low. And this is a team that has really, they've had emotional swings. As many teams as anyone in the league, they've had 3 games in 11 days, 2 games on the road, 2 of them, the home and the road game, the game against the Bengals, the game against the Seahawks, both those were emotional games. And then you could also argue that the Jets game, there was a little bit of emotion thrown in there as well. I guess my ultimate point is it feels like this is all part of the growth process for a young team to have to go through this, to kind of have to, scab up a little bit this early in the season, get calloused up, for lack of a better term. What's your kind of big picture perspective on the emotional state of this team as you see it at this point?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we put a lot of energy went into the first 2 weeks of the season and I think that the confidence in this team was pretty high. I mean, yeah, we lost the game in overtime, but I think we can all go back, watch that game and say, probably should have won that football game.
They were like 4 plays away from going to 2-0.
Yep.
And, with fourth quarter Seattle, you're sitting there going, this team can go 2-0 right out of the gate. And now in like a bolt, they're 1-2 and they have to travel 3,000 miles to play the 49ers.
Yeah. I mean, but like as a young team, I think you just kind of reiterate that, right? I mean, we're a couple plays away from being 2-0 and yeah, we got beat on Thursday night, but maybe this was a good thing that this happened on, the Thursday night game. Now we have a few extra days to prepare, a few extra days to kind of get over, let this kind of sink in. Let's watch the film. Let's go back and watch Seattle. Let's make sure that we correct all those things. Let's watch the Jet game because guess what? We're playing them again. So let's go, let's watch, let's learn. But all right, we're sitting here 1-2, could easily be 2-1. And we still have played a lot of good football up until this point. Right. And it's week 3. We're going into week 4. All right. We're not just going to hit the panic button because all of a sudden we could have been 2-1 and be like, oh my God, we can make the playoffs. It's like, no one thought we were going to make the playoffs. Right. We're Vegas, bet the over, right? We're sitting over here in the Patriots report that's our motto. We're betting the over. It's like, I expect them to win 7-8 games, but dude, it's week 4. We have so much more football left to play. Let these young kids learn. There should be no heads down, feeling bad about themselves. Just freaking learn from it and move on, bro. This is a big game coming up for you to go make a statement against an NFC opponent who was in the Super Bowl last year. Go play them hard. And guess what? If we lose, oh well, it's an NFC opponent. Right? Let's learn from it. Let's do some good things. Let's continue to build. And then, let's see where we're at in the second, third quarter of the season.
You got to learn from it. And that's the key. That's the big thing. And I think we'll know relatively early on if they are competitive. And I expect them to be competitive against San Francisco. But if they're competitive for all 60 minutes, then it's a good sign. Win, loss, whatever the case may be, to bounce back after the last game plus what we saw from this team. Any thoughts? Speaking of a learning process, any thoughts about the learning process that Drake Maye had or may have undergone Thursday night. He came in relief of Jacoby, went 4 for 8 for 22 yards, had a 15-yard pass play, but like Brissett, appeared to not have a whole lot of time in the pocket.
Yeah. Again, I would hope that people see this and say, like, this is not the time to just throw Drake in the game, because I understand why Gerard put him in. The game's out of reach. Maybe it was, all right, let me protect Jacoby a little bit. We're not really going to get much more out of him, and this game is not really going to be winnable. So, okay, let's get Drake a couple live bullets and see how he handles it. But I again, it's like, why? Why are we throwing him in there for him to see a pass rush that is in his face like right away with no real getting in a rhythm or warm up or anything? So I get why we did it. I don't think that really helped Drake at all. I think it was okay that he got the experience and he was out there with the team. But again, I still think that Jacoby is very much the right quarterback for this team in where we're at right now. I do. And I think that Jacoby gives us our best chance of winning football games.
I continue to believe the fact that, look, Drake Maye is ready, physically ready to play.
100%.
He's ready, but they don't have the infrastructure around him ready to support a rookie quarterback. That's even, with the fact that there may be a ceiling for this offensive line. Hunter Henry may continue to play well. Pop Douglas is going to continue to ascend. But at this stage, I don't want to say it doesn't do you any good because, you never know. But at this stage, it doesn't feel quite ready yet to turn the keys over to the kid.
What's the reward? Like, well, I know no one in Foxborough wants to hear this, but what's the reward here? The risk is you send your first round draft pick out there who gets pummeled by just an offensive line that is not really built yet. And I think there's a long game here being played where we're going to have to, that's going to be part of our build, right? That's going to be part of Gerard's build, is creating and getting an offensive line together over the next year or two that can protect this kid. And then we're just going to add bits and pieces here. But right now, I've seen it happen, man. I've seen it happen to too many young quarterbacks who just get thrown into the fire. They're seeing ghosts, and they're not going to get coached well enough, because it's just like, hey, I don't know what to tell you. Like, what do you want me to tell you? You have 2-3 seconds to throw the ball. If you don't make the right decision, like, it's a bad decision. So it's like, I just don't see the value in putting him out there. And this is not going to be a learning experience that I think that would be positive. If it was a positive one, then great. If he had time back there, if the offensive line to protect, he had guys that he was going to throw to that we knew were going to make some plays, which I think we do. But I just don't see the value in just throwing him out there. I think that Jacoby has a much better chance of figuring out what to do, because he's been there, he's done it, he's seen everything. He'll make his own adjustments to, like, hey, I got to get the ball out. Like, all right, like I know I got freaking Bosa coming off the edge over here. It's like, all right, maybe like forget the chip, just let the back end in the flat. Let me just dump it to him real quick, and we'll just move on. So again, I think I do think that Drake will come in at some point at this season, but right now is not the time, man. You don't want to do that to this kid. I just think it wouldn't help him.
And look, I understand that it's comparing apples and oranges, but it's hard to continue to make this argument when Jaden Daniels plays like he did last night. I don't know how much you saw. Jaden Daniels has the greatest game in the history of for any rookie quarterback, and I'm only engaging in slight hyperbole here. It was phenomenal. And look, and I understand. I'm completely with you when it comes to that argument, and there is more infrastructure around Jaden Daniels in Washington than there would be right now around Drake Maye in New England. But you look at Jaden Daniels, and you can understand why people are saying, let's get Drake out there. Let's go. Yeah. Let's get this thing started. Let's get this rebuild, this offensive rebuild underway. Let him get hit. Let him learn. Let him see the live bullet. What would you say to someone who says, look, that process, accelerating that process a little bit is there is some value there. And I do understand that that you take the chance with a kid, you throw him out there, and you just see what happens.
I mean, you can argue both sides, but like at the end of the day, we have no idea how he's going to react.
Mhm.
Jaden Daniels, played a great game. I mean, there could be some stuff that defenses do to him differently next week, where it's just he struggles, right? And I think there's a big part of this where you listen to a lot of these older quarterbacks and you talk about actually developing young guys and teaching them how to read defenses and knowing where to go with the football. I don't want Drake to go out there and just have to rely on his athleticism and running around the field trying to just find open guys and putting himself exposed. I mean, I'm appealing to the kids like football longevity here as well, and I don't want to see him go out there and get hurt because he's on the run all the time, or he's not necessarily going to the right places and he's taking unnecessary hits. So I get what people are saying, and sure, he could go out there, he could learn quickly, which I think he's shown that he can do. But I still think there's a lot more value in letting him sit there, get the mental reps and learn. And just like my advice to Drake is that every single week you are preparing like a starter. You are going in there. You are watching as much film as humanly possible. You're watching old film. You're watching, God, I mean, the amount of freaking clips of Tom Brady in that building, go back and watch him, man. Learn. Go back and watch the 2 games. What would you have done differently? Where would your read have been? Diagnose the defense? Make sure that you can see it like that. Right? Because if you go out there, and you and I both know, we've watched this game long enough where if you hesitate, bad things happen. So get that going, man. I mean, listen, the game, the preparation game has changed, right? Because they have the virtual stuff, they can do all these different things. So make sure, dude, do extra, do more, so that when your number is called and it's like, okay, Drake, you're starting this football game, you don't have that oh shit. It's kind of like, yeah, okay, let's go, right? Regardless of what our situation is, you're ready to take it on and deal with whatever you get, and also deal with the aftermath. All right, if it's a bad game, take the accountability for it, right? Put all the responsibility on your shoulders, because that's what good quarterbacks do. They're not out there blaming the receivers. I mean, I was so impressed with Patrick Mahomes last year, with him. I mean, he had receivers dropping the ball left and right, and he put it on himself, man. He's like, I got to do better. I got to help him. I got to put the ball better. I got to put it in a better spot. That's a good quarterback. And do I think Drake can do that? Yeah, sure, I do. But I think you got to make sure that when that time comes, that he is doing all the right things. Because listen, this is the quarterback of our future for the time being, right? Let's make sure that this kid is doing all the right things.
And if not, we're going to be back here in 2 years talking about Arch Manning and how he would look with the number 2 or the number 3 pick, or Shedeur Sanders, or whatever the case may be. It hammers.
I don't want to do that. That's what I'm afraid of.
Exactly. It goes back to making sure that you have to pick the right time to kind of flip that switch. So we're both.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong answer here, man. It's just, I think we're all just we're trying to think what's best for Drake, what's best for his future, what's best for him to be the quarterback of the Patriots for the next 5, 6, 7 years and be successful, right? I don't think it's throwing him out there right now. I just don't. But again, that's why I don't get paid to make those decisions. So ball's in your court, Gerard.
Are you worried at all about Rhamondre? Because I'm a little worried about the ball. 3 fumbles in 3 games. I'm a little bit worried about that.
I think, that's got to be talked about. And I think that if I'm Gerard, he's been around Bill long enough where that first 15 minutes of practice is just straight ball security. And I think that for him, I think that he has to understand that the run game has got to be a huge part of how well this offense is going to be and to do throughout this season. And to do that, we have to take care of the football. We can't turn the ball over. So, Rhamondre got to take a little accountability for himself so that we can continue to trust him and give him the ball, because, he's shown that he's able to do some really, really good things, and we have to rely on him a little bit to be able to do those week in and week out. But we can't have the ball on the ground. I mean, that's rule number one.
He's physically, mentally, just as tough as they come. But I just you know that these sorts of things come in bunches.
Yeah, I mean, I also think that there's probably a little bit of I know we're not going to be able. I know I'm going to get the ball 25 times, or we're going to run the ball 25, 30 times in a game. Maybe there's a little bit of I got to do a little bit more, but I don't think that's the case. Don't do more. You don't need to you don't need to turn every single run into a long, 10, 15 yard. We don't need to do that. Right? Positive plays, man. Like, if you see a hole, hit it. We don't need to be bouncing and doing all this crazy stuff. Like, that's not the type. We're not the type of offense to do that. He is a back that can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not taking away from his ability as a running back, but I just think, let's take the accountability to make sure that we're just getting positive plays every single, week in and week out.
Let's look ahead to the Niners. Sunday at 4:05 in San Francisco. What some early thoughts? This is the way Bill would always talk about the Steelers, and he would say they do what they do. The Steelers were so consistent defensively, particularly defensively, for so many years. This feels the same way. You can classify the Niners the same way. No. The Niners, the Shanahan offense that goes back to leather helmets and dirt football fields. It's the same thing, the same look, the same feel. It's successful as hell. And when everyone's healthy, I mean, they're not going to have McCaffrey for this one, obviously. When it's healthy, or when everyone is healthy, it remains one of the best in the league. Very, very difficult to stop. If you're the Patriots, what are you doing? How are you approaching this game? We talked about it from a mental standpoint. Obviously, you have to kind of turn the page on the Jets loss. But if you're the Patriots, how are you approaching this thing from a game plan perspective?
I think defensively, I don't think that we've faced two good quarterbacks, three good quarterbacks. I think that we just, in the secondary wise, I think that we have to play a little bit better. I think we have to try to make it a little bit harder for these guys to complete some passes. We obviously have to tackle better. I think we didn't tackle well enough in that game. We had some opportunities to stop some guys and, bring up third long situations, or, get them off the field. Knowing who's out there, they have a ton of different personnel. So I think, your game prep, your film prep, knowing who's going to be out there, what personnel they're in, what they can do out of these personnel, because they do a variety of different things with a fullback in there who's very athletic, the running back in there that can play, that can run and catch. And then really depending on who's out there at receiver, these guys are good. I mean, Jennings is playing unbelievable. He's playing lights out right now, and he's taking advantage of some really big opportunities. And so I think knowing that the ball can be spread around, and knowing that Purdy, does pretty well when he has time back there. So again, I think scheme wise, I think our prep is going to be huge this week, knowing how we're going to be able to defend all the different personnels. And then offensively, it's, again, we're not reinventing the wheel here, man. I just think let's keep them on their toes. We're going out west. We had a couple extra days to prepare and to come up with a really good game plan. I think Van Pelt is going to continue to learn about his guys and know what's going to work and what's not going to work. And I think we're just going to rely on those things and keep this game close, not turn the ball over, play well on special teams, who is going to be huge this year. And, we'll see what happens, See if we can get to Brock, get him uncomfortable. See if we can make him make some decisions that he's not, great at doing right now, or so whatever it is. He's a little banged up. They're a little banged up. So let's go out there and just see what happens. Again, no one's expecting us to win this game, so we should at 1-2, could be 2-1. Like, we're still playing good football. Like, I firmly believe. What do we have to lose? Right?
Yeah.
It's like let's play every freaking football game like there is no tomorrow. Right? And I think that's how this team should just approach every single game, and just dude, we surprising people. Yeah, cool. We're a good football team, but we might not look like it on paper, but we're going to go out there and compete.
The line is 10.5. Our friends at Bet Online have set it at 10.5. That's a lot of points.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you. You're going on the road, 3,000 miles away. 10.5 points is an extraordinary spread. And I think we'll know by the end of the first quarter whether this thing is going to be competitive at all. I'll say this. By the midway point of the first quarter, we're going to know if this thing has any chance of being competitive at all. I think that if they can hang in, if they can keep it, as we said before, manageable, from play to play, situation to situation, then they're going to have a shot at this thing. But there's no margin for error. There is no margin for error going on the road with this team, with this roster right now in any game, but going on the road, facing a team that was in the Super Bowl last year, they have to play their best game of the year to win this game.
Yes, 100%.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I would agree with you. I think we're going to know right away.
Yeah.
Within the first couple of drives.
Yeah.
I think we're going to know if this team is ready to go or not.
It's either going to be like a 4-point game in the end, or it's going to be a 30-point game in the end. There's no middle ground with this game.
I do. I mean, listen, I think that even if our offense is struggling, if we're able to at least control the field position a little bit, and we're not giving Brock and Kyle, this short field to work with where they're able to just continue to put points on the board. Mm-hmm. I think that our defense, I don't expect our defense to play how they played week in and week out. We have some good guys there, and I think they're going to get it together. So I think, again, it's like keys to this game is, make Brock drive the field, make him make all the throws. Let's tackle better. Let's not turn the ball over, and let's just have positive football plays and kind of see where we're at. I think those are like keys that we are going to probably go into every single game. But if we can do that, which we did for the first 2 weeks, I think it's going to be a close game. If we can't, and we're giving the defense, we're giving our defense a short field and not a lot of room to work with, and they're on the field a lot, and they're going to get tired, then it's going to be tough.
Wanted to wrap up today by asking you a couple of real quick questions, league-wide stuff. What is more surprising to you? The Seahawks at 3-0 or the Bengals, Jags, and Titans all 0-3?
I think everyone's surprised by the Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're seeing a young quarterback in Tennessee that's not ready to play, and you kind of see what happens there, right? And then listen, the Jaguars are the Jaguars. I mean, I know they've had some good years here and there, but it's the NFL, man. It's tough to win every single year, and they're not playing good football. And that's going to happen. You turn the ball over, you don't play good defense, and the other team plays well against you. I mean, Josh Allen looked like a freaking all-star last night. Playing. I don't even know who he's throwing. I don't even know the name of the guy he was throwing the ball to, but he was doing it. So I was happy to see Josh, kind of do some good things in that game. But I think they're hitting the panic button in Cincinnati a little bit right now. If I were the Bengals, I'd be hitting the panic button because you lose to the Patriots in week 1, and now you're sitting here at what are they, 1-2? And
Bengals are 0-3.
0-3. They're
Bengals are 0-3.
And they were, I don't know what the odds were for them to be an AFC contender, but they were up there. And so I'm definitely hitting the panic button a little bit. There's the sense of urgency in Cincinnati has got to be through the roof. I mean, people are going to, you go out there and go 0-4, people are going to be on the hot seat. Zach Taylor's going to be on the hot seat for sure.
What do you think about seeing these quarterbacks who are on their second stop, Sam Darnold, Malik Willis, these guys enjoy success? It just kind of reinforces for me the fact that it doesn't always connect that first time, and that's okay. Or maybe even the second time, if that's okay. You need to find someone who knows your strengths, knows your weaknesses, a coach that is not so dogmatic in his approach, and you can unlock a guy. Yep. And I think that's a little bit, and Darnold is, for me anyway, the best example of that so far.
Perfect example. Sam Darnold he has a quarterback ready arm. He could make all the throws. Since the day he got into this league, he got bad coaching. Like, he was a victim of a guy that was not ready to play, got thrown into the fire, and everyone counted him out as just a backup quarterback in this league because I don't think that he was coached well. And I think that he was thrown in too early and was not able to develop the right way as a young quarterback should. And now we're seeing it, him being in. He's had some years underneath his belt. He's learned from from mistakes, and now he's going out there and playing freaking lights out in Minnesota. I mean, I'm happy for him, man. I really am. I think it's Sam's a good kid. I played with him a little bit, in New York, and you could feel his frustrations. Playing in New York is difficult as it is, but you could just feel it, man. He wore that thing. I mean, he wore those frustrations day in and day out. So. Really happy to see him be successful in another place. And again, it's like it's sometimes it's got to be the right situation, right? The right time. Timing is everything in life. Mm-hmm. So to all you guys in Foxborough who want this kid to come and play, maybe it's not the right time. Just think about that, right? And let's be patient. This timing will come. He will be playing. He will quarterback this team at some point. But maybe it's not the right time. So let's, relax a little bit.
Between Sam Darnold and Brian Flores, are the Vikings for real?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you got Justin Jefferson, Sam playing well, defense is playing well. Yeah, I mean, listen, and again, I think you got to ride these waves, right? I mean, if they got all the confidence in the world, they're playing good football. They have one of the best receivers in the league, and they have a quarterback right now that's able to get him the ball and spread the rock around, and they're playing good defense. I mean, those are all good things to be going into week 4 of the season, trying to go 4-0. So, as we sit here today on Tuesday, on September 24th, the Minnesota Vikings are real. Again, it's like, guys got to stay healthy. They got to stay available, and they got to continue to build off of this thing. But, yeah, I mean, they look like a pretty damn good football team right now.
Last question for me, and we talked briefly about some of the other teams in the AFC East. What is the level of concern in Miami, setting aside the very real-world issues that Tua is facing now, specific to his health? What are some of – again, we've talked before. Look, it's only week 3, but this team – the Dolphins feels like it's still kind of trying to find its identity a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's without Tua, I don't really know how competitive they're going to be down the stretch. I think that they have enough talent on that offense that I think that they're going to be able to stay in games. And they have enough talent on defense where they're going to be competitive. But Tua was, he made that offense kind of go. And without him, I don't know how competitive they're going to be down the stretch. So it's a tough situation, man. But, from a player who's played, who has taken a number of blows to the old noggin, you got to think about your future, bro. And it's scary to see him kind of seize up and when it almost seems like he's not even getting hit that hard. I know he's getting hit, and I know his head is taking a beating, but some of these things, it almost kind of seems like he just gets nicked, and it's just he's going into that, and that's scary, man. And you got your whole life to live, bro. And God forbid you were to go out there and something else, this affect you long term. I just don't think there's enough. The risk is not worth it. It's really not. You've made your money. You're going to get the Dolphins. I would pray that they do the right thing and stand by him and keep him involved and be there. But if I'm Mike McDaniels, dude, this is a human being first, and he's got a family and people. And again, what is he? 26 years old, 25 years old.
Yeah.
He hasn't even lived a quarter of his life yet, bro. Football is such a small. I don't think people realize that. It's the football life is such a small blip on your life as a whole. And, I think people tend to forget that a little bit because the average career in the NFL is under 3 years, right? These guys have to go out and make a living and do different things. And yeah, sure, Tua's going to make a lot of these guys make a lot of money, and hopefully they, have the right things set up so that they're able to continue to be successful in the future and after they're done playing and have their families taken care of, which I think Tua will. He seems like a very smart kid. But like, if you don't have this thing, it's like things get tough. So, I think they got to take care of that first and foremost, and then, let football come second over there in Miami and hope that, someone can step up, and see if they can be competitive.
I used to do radio with Matt Chatham, former Patriots linebacker, and we would have this debate. And I would say that sometimes athletes need to be saved from themselves.
Yeah.
And this feels like one of those situations. I'm not going to profess to know everything there is to know about Tua or concussions or his current situation vis-a-vis his health, but it would seem to me that the prudent move at this time for him would be to retire.
Yep. I think it is. I think it's, if you don't want to retire, like, just let's go on the IR for this year. Make sure that you can still be involved and help out the team. And listen, man, I mean, that's the toughest decision an athlete has to make, and again, like, for an athlete, for a competitor, for someone that they've done this since they were able to walk on 2 feet on this earth, it really is. It's the hardest thing to do, to walk away from this game that really has given you so much in life. But, trying to think of the bigger picture of, I still have so much left on this earth and so much more. You're not just a football player.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know Tua personally, but he's not just a football player. There's going to be so much more to him as a person, as a human. I don't know if he has kids, being a father or a son or a husband or whatever he is on this planet, right? That's so much more important for the rest of your life than what you're going to do on the football field. And I think that, the people that are around him, I think that they need to have those serious conversations and be like, man, like, it's not worth your health. People know what you've done. You were a damn good quarterback. You played well. You turned heads in this league, man. No one thought that you were going to be this good, and you turned heads, man. I mean, and been playing great, and I think that you have to just remember that, and just kind of make sure that when you're going out with your head like way high, like you're not going out on the low note, man. It is what it is. Like, but think about yourself, your health first before, and the football stuff. Like, just don't. It's not worth it. It's really not.
Chris Hogan, as always, my friend, thank you very, very much for your time. Take care, and we will talk again next week.
All right, Chris.